said
Oh, he was telling good
so
shit.
what? You another time?
Thank you, everybody. Happy summer, and I hope everyone stays cool over the next couple of days. And just think about that when we're in the midst of budget session in January. But I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting, July 16, 2019, 7:30 here at the Sarah Noble Intermediate School. The first thing we're going to do is if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a brief moment of silence. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you. Okay, at this point, I'll entertain any public comment. Okay. Sensing none. We'll move on to the PTO report. And since it's summer, perhaps the PTO even takes a break. And yeah, the student representatives will be joining us in, I believe August, but definitely September. We'll have a new member joining us at that point. which brings us to the approval of minutes. If I could have a motion to approve the following Board of Education minutes, regular meeting minutes, June 18, 2019.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And I need a motion to approve the following Board of Education meeting minutes, special meeting minutes, June 25th, 2019.
So moved.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Those in favor? Opposed and recused. And that's two of you. And I'd like to introduce our very first superintendent's report from Dr. Parker. So
Thank you.
please.
I'm 11 days I've completed, and it's been great, 11 great days. I've met a lot of community members. I've done a lot of learning about the district, more than, I did my homework, but it's really nice to hear from individuals. I've enjoyed meeting one-on-one with several community members and the board, most all of you, a couple yet to go. I visited summer school, which is amazing, and kudos to Kevin Munret and Laura Olson for creating a preschool in the high school. It's just amazing what they did, and I just was so impressed. It's very, very big, and the Bridges program started as well. I haven't made it over there yet, but what a team we have. I'm really proud of my leadership team. We've had a great couple of weeks already and got to know them really well. I also, every morning, have the pleasure of seeing Camilla's cupboard in action, and it blows me away. The number of lunches they provide, even on the 4th of July. So thank you. I think that's a powerful, powerful program and something we need to make sure everybody knows about. It's awesome. And then finally, I sent out the superintendent survey for my entry plan and have received about 350 responses so far, which is amazing, and very solid, good feedback that I'm hoping to be able to share with you when we have a workshop in September, so we could talk more about that. But no, it's been great. I look forward to day 12.
Okay. Well, as on that, yes, we will be having, hopefully before our regular meeting, a workshop dealing with many of your findings that we have and seeing where we go from there.
Thank you.
Also, as many of you can see, our maintenance staff is readily preparing the buildings for next month when the students return here at Sarah Noble. We'll keep you appraised of the progress on the roof here, as well as the high school, which has been delayed again, but we will keep you appraised on that. Also, just to bring to your attention, I know you've seen it, but we're going to finally, hopefully, wrap up our budget there is a discussion and possible action for a capital reserve request in the amount that was cut at our previous meeting. And that's it for me. Okay, moving on to committee. Brian.
We didn't have a meeting in July. Everything that was on our agenda will be presented tonight, the summer projects.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And operations?
We did not have a meeting, what we were going to have at operations, we have, you'll see here this evening, we do have the capital pertaining to the budget, and we also have the financial information for informational on the board agenda. It is also, the committees are leaning towards not having facilities and operations in August, and bringing it to the full board. We've spoken about that, and I've reached out to some board members if they had a concern about that. Anything that would be on operations would be at the full board anyways. It's been a particularly long season, and anything that we would discuss would just come anyways, and I took the decision that it was the right move to make sure one less night, considering all the months that we've had. So I just want to be very clear about
Okay.
that.
No, that's fine, thank you. And policy, Tammy?
Yes, we too did not have a meeting in July, although there are 7 policies on the agenda for tonight for second review. Our next policy meeting is going to take place in September. On September 3rd, we do not have an August meeting scheduled, but the September policy meeting will be devoted to those policies that were required to change by statute. So that's where we are with policy.
Thank you. And Committee on Learning, Mr. Shem is not here,
We didn't have a meeting.
and they didn't have a meeting, that's right. And at Advance.
At Advance, I was unable to make the last meeting, and they've already canceled the August meeting, so we won't be back into session until September sometime. And I understand that Dr. Kittering is going to come meet you with you, or you're going to meet with him to have the new superintendent meet with him and discuss what the advantages of at Advance.
Thank you. And with CABE, one of the updates there is, and I was amazed again, it's very similar to the mandates, but some of the mandates require that parents be notified, teachers be notified, students be notified, things that need to be, have our policies explained. I was going to list them for you, but it's about 200. But I think it's the magnitude of, again, things that we have to do in preparation for school opening. For example, the FERPA policy has to be clearly explained annually. That's one thing that has to be done. The IDEA policies have to be explained to parents and constituents as well. Those are just some of them. Other things, the teachers and paras qualifications, those need to be done. And we need to have a report on our homeless students and how that's being handled. That needs to be publicized as well. So, and the list is endless. But just so that you're aware, and CABE is pretty adamant about getting it all done. So, but I know we've been working on that and will continue to do so. And it brings us to the magnet school.
Just a question, you get that all out electronically, so it all goes to parents? What is it?
Well, it's each individual one. Some go to some parents, some goes to other parents, some don't go to parents at all.
Thank you.
It's-
All right, Magnet School, it's summertime, and Magnet School, there's no meetings, and probably won't be until October.
Okay. And as Tammy mentioned, our policies for second review. 1325, advertising and promotion. 1330, use of school facilities. 1331, smoking. 1411, relations with police authorities. 1412, fire department. 1430, state and federal aid. And 1620, relations with private schools, colleges, and universities. If any of you have any concerns?
Question.
Yeah.
And I may have missed it at policy, but I am on policy, so if I missed it, I'm sorry. Are any of these are going to come back for approval, correct, at the next meeting?
At the August,
In August,
at the full board.
right. Are any of these time sensitive that August will suffice, meaning for handbook or anything like that, or?
That's a very good question. I don't think that they're time sensitive.
I thought I had asked it,
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I just want to be, I didn't know if any were.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I
It
don't
will.
know if it would be in an
No,
addendum.
we don't think so. So hopefully we'll see these in August and we'll double check on this.
Well, yeah, it should
Good.
state.
We're usually extremely good about
Yeah.
that. I just always like to
And
make sure.
and sometimes we'll even have to during the year.
Huh?
Approve
And
one
they,
with-
and they are updated online once they're approved, right, Pat? So once they are approved,
Yes.
they'll be online, so.
Yep.
And we can always change them if we do miss
Right.
something, which hopefully will not be the case. But any other questions on the policies that will be coming before us? Joe?
Two thoughts. One of them is on our smoking policy. It's obvious you're not supposed to smoke in school buildings. Vaping is a huge thing. It's a huge problem in high school. And whether we send electronic notices to parents or the booklet that comes home day one that everybody has to sign for, I would hope particularly at the high school, that they emphasize the issue particularly about vaping, and it's a nationwide problem. Some school districts in the Midwest are taking an extremely tough stance on this, and I think we need to get this information out more in a verbal format to our high schoolers. Let them know it's not allowed and there can be consequences. With regard to police authorities, many of you know my stance on police and involvement and my dedication to law enforcement. But these policies do form a good reason for protecting our students and limiting police activity within the school buildings. I think if we don't, we set a dangerous precedence. We have all our policies come before us in September, and we'll bring those up at that time, but I have all the concerns.
Thank you, Joe. Wendy?
Thanks, Vin. That's a great point. And just a thought, perhaps I know that our district does a great job at freshman orientation, and perhaps that might be a moment to highlight that particular, not to single out that issue, but to also do, you have very captive audience there, and anxious parents and students entering the high school for the first time, and I think that would be a great opportunity to refresh some of that. It's a verbal refresher.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, especially because the consequences can be severe, I think that kids need to understand that this is no longer just tobacco, it's considered drug, paraphernalia. So they need to understand that there are consequences and they need to be aware of the policy. So I think that's a really good idea, is to do this either during the open house or during the orientation that happens at the end of the school year, or before we start the new one, so, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, capital reserve request. I need a motion that the board request that the town council and board of finance approve $96,511 from the capital reserve account to fund capital items cut from the 2019-20 Board of Education adopted budget. I'll move that.
Second.
Does that handout go?
And there,
So we're gonna-
you get,
Thank you. If you could give us a moment. Do you need a second on that? I'll second it.
You made the motion.
I made the motion.
And I second.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There's not a memo in the packet on this.
Right.
And we thought it important to do one to kind of separate, because there are different capital reserve requests out there. So on the front of the memo, that first block there, that totals $96,511, that's tied to the motion this evening. Everything below there is discussion about the 5-year capital plan items that the board, when they did their adopted on January 31st, removed from the budget completely. So those are not the topic of the motion tonight, but we don't want that to get lost in the mix here. On the rear is the breakout of those items that totaled the $411,500 that were removed in the board adopted. And what the administrative staff has done is gone through, I've gone through these items. The technology items were left as is, and we had some revisions to the facilities items based on projects we've done between the time the $411,500 was cut and today's date. I know it's a big chunk of text to digest on the front here, but this is really trying to outline the whole process.
Wendy?
This is extremely helpful. So the motion for this evening would be for the 96,511 that was part of the budget process. And then peeling back way back to January, when we made our budget adoption at the board, we had looked at the 411 disbursement on that, and we don't want that to be lost. We want to make sure that we come back to the town council and board of finance, and obviously the board first, to make sure that we can move forward with that. My question on the timing of that is that we were pretty much in agreement that sooner rather than later, we want to try and access the capital reserve as early on into this fiscal year. So with the projects for 411, and some of that is still a fluid number, I understand that perhaps some of that may be, but would we bring that to the board for the August meeting and then for the approach?
That would be my thought.
That would be, I just want to be clear, so when you see this again in August, you're really looking at the second page of
Right.
this, the back side, and that we'll pursue that in another section, if you will.
Yeah, the last, if I can speak to that, the last paragraph, if I
Please.
could just read it into the minutes of the memo here, is that the amounts on the rear should be anticipated to be part of an additional withdrawal request from the Board of Education Capital Reserve account sometime over the summer. This forthcoming request is separate and distinct from the $96,511 requested as part of tonight's motion, which is outlined above.
And one last thing. I see if this motion passes, I don't see any problem with this making the council meeting for Monday night. So that'll be.
We will do our best.
I don't think it'll be an issue.
I know they've already got an agenda, but I know there's revisions every
I
Friday
think it'll
anyway.
be great.
Any other comments or questions? Joe?
We go through this process every year, right, with the cuts, what we think are important, not. Chromebooks are always on that issue of being cut. I think there's some other projects that could be approached aside from the Chromebooks, particularly at 150 at the high school. I'll be honest, I'm on the fence about this.
About the 96?
Anybody else? Those in favor? And opposed? Thank you. Okay, additional items for information and discussion. Exhibit A, personnel, certified, non-certified appointments, resignations, and leaves of absence dated July 16, 2019.
Point of clarification. There's no motions on any of these?
Nope.
These are just items of
Correct.
Information. So
Correct.
if, for people out there watching this, we're not taking any motions.
Correct.
They're posted so we can have a transparent discussion.
Correct. Joe?
Ms. Baldelli. The number of staff in this report, is that about what you would anticipate at year end?
Yes.
And nothing unusual?
It's typical for an end of the year. Some of the reasons, as you can see on the right side of the exhibit, folks are moving out of town, out of state. Some folks are moving to another position somewhere else because we don't have a position similar to that available here, so they want to move on. Some folks are moving because it's closer to home, and then there are those that are moving because the opportunity to make a move in salary is beneficial to them. And those are usually the areas of, that have been identified by the State Department of Education as shortage areas. And so if they can go somewhere else with the experience that they have, they sometimes do. We've been fortunate to get some of those folks to come here too. And you'll see that on the exhibit when you see the salaries. They're not all coming in on step one, but this is typical. And just, I thought you might ask, Mrs. Fallenbeck, that we have currently 14 positions that are vacant,
Right.
3 of which we've got recommendations to do final interviews, so that 14 really is down to 11. We have lots of applications right now, and so we are just waiting for recommendations from the principals to finish their interview process, and Dr. Parker and I will be processing through those final interviews, so we are very optimistic that we're going to be able to fill those, many of those. There'll be a few that we'll have to really look deeper, and those are like shortage areas, speech and language. Those are difficult to find, but we keep plugging away at those.
Thank you for that. David? I just didn't know if you could see me.
I didn't, so
Well,
thank you.
Don't worry, I'm not shy. So, question, I noticed that we had a maintenance position. And we had eliminated a maintenance position. So are we,
So
where are we?
So no one is going to lose a job because of someone retiring.
Correct.
That elimination was absorbed by the attrition of that. And we also have a second custodial position now opening because someone is actually retired.
Got it.
So we're going to be okay.
So
Mr.
not to be
Munro-
confused with, because there's some movement in that
Correct. But no-
area, so I didn't want it to be.
Yes,
I
that's where
appreciate
we
that.
are. Yep.
Ellie, out of the 14 positions that you're currently searching, these are the people that have resigned, those are among them?
Yes.
And we feel confident that these positions will be filled because there's some on here that are pretty important from a
Yes.
programming
Yep.
stand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're already getting applications for everything that's been
Great, so
listed.
so you've known about this, they've been publicized and
Oh,
you've
they're
been
all,
receiving them, okay.
some have been posted longer than others. As they come in, like we just got one yesterday, that'll get posted immediately.
Gotcha.
But yes.
Perfect, thank you.
It's the season.
Yep, I know.
It's
I
the
know this,
season.
I know that we normally see this.
Anything else on that? Okay, monthly reports, budget position, purchase resolution P 724, and request for budget transfers. Well, I hope our electric bill stays a little low
Yeah.
during the next couple of days. Usually I ask you about oil, but, any questions or clarifications there?
This is as of June 30th. There may be some movement. Is that fair to say,
Yeah.
Anthony?
When
I want to
could-
be clear on that the number that we're looking at right now, perhaps that in August,
Yeah.
when we come to the full board, that number will move.
Move
And-
north, that is?
Move in either direction.
Good answer.
It shouldn't move by much. If you go to the
Right.
last page, page 404 on the budget position,
Yeah, just about all.
as of June
Right.
30th, we still had $660,000 in encumbrances outstanding. That billing was still coming in
Right,
for,
right.
which we received most of. After that was processed, we should have a fiscal year imbalance of around 373. That's what it was as of June 30th. That number should not shift around that much. We've
But
we've
we'll
talked
have a
about
better picture
yeah.
next month.
We've talked about 200 before and 300 before. We're somewhere between the 300 and 370. And on the bottom of page 4, what I did was even though the number's not final and it's still subject to audit, I placed that in the array of where we've ended the last 10 fiscal years. And that, if we ended there, it would be 0.59% of budget, and it's almost right on the average.
David, I have one
Yeah.
question on the major object codes, the 5-year capital. What are we doing with that 125,000, and we're only at 68%, and so.
Yeah, the percent there looks wrong. We did more projects. We had 2 fiscal year-end projects, so that's a good catch. The percentage on that one, on the right column, 68.56% is incorrect. Good catch on that. But all the funds there are fully expended. We actually authorized the 2 end-of-the-year projects,
Right.
which was the Hill and Plain cafeteria floor and the Windows 7, Windows upgrade with security.
Okay, so
Security.
it's much higher than the 68. It's almost all spent.
Yes,
It
it is
is.
100%.
It's all spent.
100%, okay. Good, thank you.
And the OCR update.
This was one of the very first things that I reviewed and approved. Kevin Munro, I'm sure, can speak to more of it, but really there are no changes. We have to do this every year, and, you know, the issues are the issues, like the $30,000 elevator, but there are no changes to this other than we have no update to the update. Correct?
Any questions? Okay, the summer projects update.
Sir. So we drafted the memo to kind of capture a lot of the year-end projects that Anthony alluded to, and pleased to report that they're all going quite well, including the roof replacement on this building. A lot of dry weather, no rain, has allowed the roofers to make tremendous progress. We included some schematics in the memo so that you could see the progress that they've made and that they will continue to make to get the building watertight before the kids come back in August. All the other projects on here are either winding down or punch list items at this point. And obviously, the custodians and the maintenance crew have their work cut out for them to get our buildings ready around all of this chaos. So kudos to them to getting their everyday job done despite all the curveballs we've been throwing at them.
Question?
Yes.
Of the things we have to do still on this list, are they prioritized, and what's the important things?
They're not in priority order. I could say that the serving line, for example, at this school is arriving on Monday. It will be installed before the end of the week. A lot of these are, like I said, punch list items, abatement project, we're waiting for final walkthrough with the fire marshal.
Okay. So like the asphalt walkways and pads needed to be installed, and that's July, completion date was July 2016.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. So going back to the OCR update, this was something that was handed to the district back in 2015, and a lot of the items that are still remaining on this list are quite expensive. And that's something that maybe we should bring to the town building committee to get their input on how to fund these projects.
Fund them, yes. If they can give us some money, we can get these off our list.
That's right.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Ken?
So, Kevin, you and I spoke a little bit about this, but can you give us a little bit of an update about the New Milford High School roof? Because it was my understanding that we were hoping that work would be done over the summer. Now we've lost the summer. And it looks to me that the scope of the work has not even been done yet for us to move forward on that.
I'm going to refer to Dr. Parker
Okay.
first. She's had firsthand knowledge with
Okay.
this. One of your 11 days,
Yes,
taken up with it.
when it was brought to my attention that nothing had started yet on the roof, I was concerned, and Kevin and I went to visit Mayor Bass, so that I thought maybe he could provide me with an update as to where we are on the project, because my concern is if the roof hasn't started yet, then school's in session and we have students in class, and if I were a parent, I'd be concerned if the shingles are coming off of the building and nothing's happening. And so he said that they had received a waiver from the state, that they could just reshingle some areas as opposed to completely redoing the roof. And I told him I wanted to report to you on this project because we were doing the summer project update, and that they're getting ready to go out for bid was my understanding. They haven't yet gone out for bid on the project.
So are we looking to have this done when kids are back in session? So they don't want to tear the roof off and do a new one. They want to just patch the areas which I think are still extensive, but they want to patch the areas. So would that be done while kids are in
Okay,
school?
now I'll go to Kevin for that one.
My impression from the meeting is that they're designing the scope of work to be a complete rip and replacement of the existing shingle roof. Given the fact that it's middle of July and we're still in the scope process, in my opinion, it won't be done before the kids come back. It would have to be worked around the school schedule.
I'm sorry, so are they going to replace the whole roof, or are they just going to rip it down just in certain sections?
No, my understanding was that they went out and got the bonding to completely remove the shingles off the high school and then just put shingles back on.
So what was the waiver for then?
There's a waiver from the state because whenever you do a complete rip of your roof, you have to bring up the insulation to the current building code, which is much more insulation than what we have there right now. They had to apply for a waiver to not do that extra work.
And why wouldn't we want to do that?
Save a lot of money.
Is there
Much-
ramifications to the building by not doing that?
No, building's only 19 years old. And
So would this be something that would potentially happen during the school year, or is this something now that would be pushed off until next summer?
I could see it happening during the school year as long as the logistics of it is coordinated, obviously with the principal and the admins at the building to understand what is happening and staging of materials and equipment.
Yeah. Wendy?
Yes, we've talked about roofs for a very long time here, and there's been a lot of discussion. I personally would hope that we can get this moving along sooner rather than later, and that has been our goal, because now we were shooting for the summer window, And I think it's fair to say that that is not going to happen. And my concern is that while we needed to get the funding in place, and we're appreciative of that, we have to be very careful when we have students in the building, and we're trying to work around that.
Right.
And we also have to be very careful about the vulnerability of what we have there now, if we have to cancel events or anything of the nature. So I'm going out on a limb here, but I think it's important that we're clear that we're aware of this, and I do hope that this gets moving along. I fear, and I really hope I'm wrong, I'd love to be proven wrong in this kind of thing, that it waits until the next season. I think that we really got to get this underway. So I also have concerns, Tammy.
I think we all do, and I know I'm disappointed that work has not started at this point already. As you stated earlier, we've been talking about this, my gosh, we're almost going to be at a year in a couple of months.
Last August, you said.
Yeah, we're going to be at a year, so that is disappointing, particularly with school in session, and then associated, band practices outside in the parking lot. You've got student parking issues, you've got faculty parking issues, you've got school bus issues. The school day is just out of the question, period. I mean, as far as I'm concerned. But that leaves nights and weekends. And then weekends and nights, you have many of the other associated activities going on, so I hope they're bonded
And
really
clubs.
well. Joe?
Maybe we have short memories. We built $3.5 million worth of fields during the school year. We're able to coordinate that. The vendors who do this work are the best at what they do. And if it can get done in September, October, I'd like to see us not get through another winter. But I don't think we're not firing stuff up at the roof or throwing stuff off the roof at students and buses. So I don't think elevating the safety concern is of any benefit to anybody. We're at the mercy of the town who owns the building. There's only so much we can control, and we've had challenges on that, and I'll agree. But I don't think safety is going to be concerned. I don't think we should elevate it. We've done many projects while students are in the school. And I wouldn't have a problem if my child was still there.
Okay, thank you.
David?
Yes.
I guess since Wendy mentioned the next season, and both Joe mentioned the next season, just, I guess maybe the pessimist side of me, is it possible to wait until the next season?
That's kind of put me on the spot. We do have temporary repairs for the storm damage that are on the roof now. My opinion would be to get those off there as soon as possible.
Eileen?
Okay, just a question. So we got the variance not to put more insulation in, and it doesn't affect the cost, but it will affect the cost of the electricity for the school because you're not insulating better.
Well, the argument would be that you're using the same insulation now that you've had for 20 years, so it would just be a...
20-year-old insulation, which could be a lot better and save on electric costs. Okay.
Absent us finding millions of dollars to spend or raising the budget numbers or taxing people more, there's a limit of what we can do. And that's only 20 years old, that building. So whatever's going back on there has worked relatively efficient up through now.
Can I just clarify something? We haven't received the waiver. The waiver was obtained apparently by the town, that's the first thing. And the second thing with the timing of this, I think we're all now at the mercy of the building committee with this project, because whenever a scope is finalized, I believe it needs to be presented to the municipal building committee. That municipal building committee needs to agree on the scope and actually post the bid. As far as I see it, those are the next steps with this project for the high school. Thank you.
Okay, with this, yeah, and then Angie, with this
Are
particular...
you talking about the roof?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm moving on, so
Are you
if
talking
you want
about
to
the roof?
follow up, just
I have a
tell me how to
roof
answer.
I have a real quick roof thing. Just, well, welcome aboard. This is one of the things that we need to monitor very closely, and updating us with any news or non-news. So, and Tammy, and then Angie.
Okay, so to follow up on something you said, Anthony, there was a lot of hemming and hawing about this town building committee, which is now going to oversee all projects with all the town buildings, including the schools. But it also is outlined here in this memo that they haven't even met. So are they overseeing this project at Sarah Noble?
I don't believe so.
So they've never come to check out the scope, they've never come to check out the work, they've not been involved at all?
I've been at the school every day checking with the roofers and our point people at Garland, and no, I haven't seen anybody from the committee.
And have they been at all involved in how we're moving forward with the high school roof?
I don't know.
No.
And have they at all come to check out the Lillis tank completion?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Roof?
Yes, and then I'd like to close it. Only because my valued colleague made a comment. There's by no means a sense to raise a alarm that safety is threatened, but we as a board don't ever lose sight of that. And I think that's important. I think that the scope of this project was meant to happen when students are not in the building, and this is changing. And so I think that we need to be clear to the public that could be changing, and of course, we're going to do our due diligence and work with the town. That's all I meant by that.
Angie?
I'm moving on from the roof.
Oh.
I have two questions, or a question and a comment. The serving line at Sarah Noble, I understand that that's not paid for out of our money, that's food nutrition money. But what was the reasoning behind that? Was the old one not working? Does this one serve students faster? Like, what was the basis to replace that? And I understand you may not know.
No, I don't know, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think this was, I can't speak for the food service and nutrition service director, but this was on the approved project list through the state, and I think this was the next one in line for refresh cycle, as some of the other schools had serving line updates through the years.
So does it make it more efficient? I mean, and again, I understand you may not know that,
I
but
don't know the answer to that, and I know that the next one in line would be the high school. I believe like half of it was done recently.
That's right, Commissioner.
And so after Sarah Noble would be completed, the serving line, I think it's Food and Nutrition Services plan to go back and do the other half of the high school. But the cost, you're looking for cost, what do we get?
well, I'm looking for a couple things. Joe, what do we get? I mean, what's the benefit of doing this? I mean, is it just simply old and, I mean, are we getting more students through? Is it somehow preventing us from getting students through in a timely manner? So the why. And then my other question would be, when was it done prior to this point?
I can give you that information.
Thank you.
No.
And then the other thing I would just like to comment on the Lillis Building stage area and just express Camilla's Cupboards Board's sincerest appreciation for that space and for us being able to use that. We're feeding between 115 and 125 students a day. We have 200 students signed up, so that is a huge, huge help to us. So thank you, and thank your staff.
Anybody else? Okay, the legal rate increase, I'm sure you see.
You knew that one.
I'm not asking you. I'm assuming you've got the memo on this. As you know, I don't think we've had a hike in several years. I know we have about 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
We did have one last year. So the first agreement with Pullman and Conley was done in 2000, and most recent one I have here is 2013. We had a rate adjustment in 2017 and 18, and this would be the third one.
Yeah, it wasn't every year. And that's just a point of information. I can't emphasize how important it is with the firm on a multitude of issues that we face on an annual basis. Angie?
Just a question. When do we go out for rebidding on legal?
That's a
How
good-
long has it been?
We,
The board,
It's been a while.
the board policy
Yeah,
states
yeah.
that we need to name our legal counsel
Yeah.
every year, which we do.
Yep.
And we are not mandated to rebid it if we decide that we would, is that correct?
Yeah, it's our decision to.
Requested by the board.
It's as requested by the
To
board.
go out and rebid legal.
If I may say,
Mhm.
and I do have a certain perspective here, these rates are bargain basement.
Yes, yeah.
You could not retain the firm I work for these rates. We wouldn't even think about it. So the service we get from these folks, I forgot. I mean, and this is
Yep.
almost.
It hasn't gone up
And
that
so
much over
the-
the years either. And I think one of the things with this firm in particular, I know in my tenure here, and that's 16 years, the firm pretty much knows the district, the community, and in some cases, even well, definitely the leadership team, which has been rather to our advantage, I should say. And yes, I do recall going out to bid once before, and this was the lowest bid of the firms that responded, which I think was only 2 others.
We have three.
3? There was 3?
We
Most
interviewed
aren't-
3.
Yeah, aren't going to work for those rates. The service we receive from this firm is superb, and for what we're paying, you're never, go out to bid, and we're going to fall over the rates.
Right, any other questions, comments? Okay, discussion and possible action. I need a motion that the board enter into executive session to interview and discuss the candidate for the position of assistant principal at New Milford High School, and to invite into said session Dr. Carrie Parker, Ms. Alme Baldelli, and the candidate.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Thank you.
Oh, give me a break, give me a
Okay, I need a motion that the board approve the appointment of Mr. Kevin Best as assistant principal at New Milford High School, effective July 17, 2019. 2019-2020 salary, $119,912, prorated to the start date.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? And thank you, and congratulations, sir. Okay, moving right along here. I need a motion that the Board of Education enter into executive session to interview and discuss the candidate for the position of assistant principal at NES, SMS, and invite into the session Dr. Carrie Parker, Ms. Elmay Baldelli, and the candidate.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Thank you. Okay, I need a motion that the board approve the appointment of Mrs. Catherine Calabrese as assistant principal at NES and SMS effective July 22, 2019, 2020 salary, $117,293.6, prorated to the start date.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Congratulations. There you go. Welcome. You can come before the 22nd if you want. I just want to make that clear. Okay, I need a motion that the board enter into executive session to interview and discuss the candidate for the position of Special Ed Supervisor PK 5 and invite into said session Dr. Carrie Parker, Ms. Elme Baldelli, and the candidate.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor? Thank you. got new people. We already had public comment. I need a motion that the board enter, I'm down one. I need a motion that the board approve the appointment of Mrs. Deborah Clark as Special Ed Supervisor, PK 5, effective July 17, 2019. 2019-20 salary, $113,934, prorated to the start date.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Congratulations. Welcome home again. Okay. I need a motion to enter into executive session to interview and discuss the candidate for the position of Technology Director and invite into said session Dr. Carrie Parker, Ms. Alme Baldelli, and the candidate.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Those in favor? Thank you. I need a motion that the board approve the appointment of Mr. Brandon Rush as Technology Director effective on or about August 14th, 2019. 2020 salary, $107,000. Prorated to the start date.
So moved.
Second?
Any
Council
discussion? Those in favor? And congratulations, sir. Okay. At this point, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Thank you.
Bill's usually the one that wants to jump on that one.